Okay, today we're going to talk about tides. Let's do this. So you come ashore after a day of great paddling, and the first thing you have to think about is, where's my camp going to be? Where's my boat going to end up? Where's my tent going to be? And we need to be able to look at a beach and figure out where the tides were to make sure that our tents, and more importantly, our boats, are above the high tide line. We don't want the tide coming in and washing our boats out. And so you look at the beach and you have to look at what's going on and try and figure out where the tides are. As tides were, every day you get 4 tides, 2 highs and 2 lows, and then those are broken out into a high and a low high. And so we need to make sure that our tent and our kayaks are above the high, and actually not even above just above the high. They have to be above the next high, which might be higher than the last high. Okay, but for starters, we need to figure out by looking at the beach where those tides are or were, and then from there we can figure out where the next ones will be. This beach that I'm on is actually pretty hard to look at and figure out where they are. So let's go to a different beach and look at that. Okay, this beach, it's super easy to tell what's going on. Look at these tide marks. So you got this one right here, and then you got another one up here. So you got 2. There's your low high, that's the most recent, and that's your high, which was 12 hours before the low high. So on a beach like this, it's super easy. But here's the real risk, is that you pull up onto a beach like this and you see perfect campsites, right? And you get sucked in and you set up your tent and you're super happy. And like this is a perfect campsite. It's flat, it's got low grass. This is a perfect campsite except for the banana peel. Absolutely perfect. But the problem is that if you look at this grass, there is a tide line right up through there. And so the last high tide was right here, which means all of this is underwater during the high tide. That's why it's super important to know where the tides were and where the next one is going to be. Okay, let's go back to that harder beach. Okay, now we're back at this beach, and let's see if we can figure out exactly where the tide lines were. So we got a high tide, or a high and a low high. And so let's see what's going on here. Okay, and so waterline, sand, and then we got a couple things going on. We've got darker sand in here, which obviously means it was wet. And we've got a line running right across here, and then we've got some debris running up there as well. But then if you look a little bit closer, I'm not too worried about this, which is up higher, because this is almost certainly just one particular wave. You can see a couple of them, one there, and then one back there. I'm not too worried about those. But because this line is drier than this line, I think what's going on is this was our low high, and this, where the debris is, was our high. The low high was the most recent, because if it was, it's still wetter than this one. And so I'm thinking that our tents and boats need to be at least up there, if not on the other side of the dune. So remember, if you're going over the dunes, you need to be super careful. You need to go through a place where there is already a trail. And we don't want to disturb the dunes. The dunes are super important as they protect what's going on the back side of the beach. And so you can see this line, including this piece. This is wetter than this piece, right? So this is more recently wet. This is drier. And then if you come up just a little bit more, you've got another line here. This is drier than this is. So I think this is your 2 lines. And in this situation, they're pretty close together, but they could be 30, 40, 50 feet apart depending on where you are and the nature of the shapes of the beaches. And so we got to make sure that the boats and the tent sites are above whatever the next one is. We then have to break out, once we know this mark, we need to break out a tide chart and figure out what the last high was, which is that mark right there, which I just showed you, and then figure out how much higher or lower the remaining mark will be, or the next mark will be. And if it's lower, awesome, piece of cake, because we can just make sure that everything is above that line. But if it's higher, we need to figure out how much higher, and we'll do that in another video. Okay, that's this week's video. Hit like, hit subscribe, it would help me out a lot. I know that only about 20% of the people that are actually watching my videos are subscribed. So if you are one of the 80% that are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. All right, I'll see you outside.